Hello and welcome to a perlani video. So for my first video I'd like to talk about mechanical keyboards. Okay, so maybe give you some advice if you're buying one or if you already just own one. So let's start with the switches. Okay, so we categorize the mechanical switches in 5 main categories. You have Cherry MXs, you have Cherry MX clones, you have alps switches, buckling springs, and topre switches. So let's start with Cherry MXs, right? So regarding Cherry MXs, they have 3 main groups of switches. You have linear, non-tactile, non-audible ones, you have non-linear, tactile, non-audible ones, and you have non-linear, tactile, audible ones. And what that means is for the linear switches, which are non-tactile, non-audible, what that means is they do not give you an audible feedback or a tactile feedback. They're just straight linear switches, like the MX Reds and their stiffer version, the MX Blacks. Now the tactile non-audible ones are the Browns and their stiffer version, the MX Clears. And for the tactile audible ones, which are the most popular for typists, you have the MX Blues and their stiffer version, the MX Greens, which are usually used for space bars and not really like for the full board. So these are the main types of Cherry MX switches. Then you have Cherry MX clones. Some of the manufacturers are Kale, Gaithron, which are really nice, Greetech. You also have gaming companies like Razer, who manufacture their own in-house. So they have their own Cherry MX clones, which they put in their boards. So you have a lot of options with Cherry MXs. Now, then we have alps switches. So you can only get alps clones today. You can't really get the original ones. And I would suggest if you're looking for alps clones, you look at Matias. Matias is, I believe, a Canadian company. They offer similar switches to Cherry MXs. So instead of MX Blues, you have, I believe they call them the clicky switches. Instead of MX Browns, they have quite clicky ones. Instead of MX Reds, they have quite linear ones, I believe. Also, unlike the original Alps, they've upped the durability of them from 10 million to 50 million clicks. So that is also really nice. Alps are somewhat similar to Cherry MX. They obviously have a different feel to them. So, buckling springs they were developed by IBM, and they are really loud and really stiff. The most similar Cherry switches might be the MX Greens, but buckling springs are really in a league of their own. So in the beginning they were manufactured by IBM, later on by Lexmark, and today if you want to get a buckling springs board, you're pretty much only limited to Unicomp, which is a United States company. So yeah, if you're looking for a brand new buckling springs board and you don't want to get one which was used, look at Unicomp. And lastly we have topre switches. Now topre switches are, I would describe them as a high quality rubber dome. So they're basically a hybrid switch. They are mechanical and they have a rubber dome as well. So they're somewhere in between. So like I said, if you don't like the mechanical feel of, let's say, Cherry MXs, and you like something more similar to rubber domes, topre switches are really nice in that regard. Also do bear in mind that boards with topre switches are usually a lot more expensive than something along the lines with Cherry MXs. Now in terms of brands, if you want Cherry MXs, you have obviously a lot of options since they are the most popular type of a switch, mechanical switch. three really well-known non-gaming companies who sell Cherry MX boards would be Filco. Now Filco is really well known for their build quality, and I completely agree with that. They're, I believe, a Japanese company. You also have Ducky. You know, this is a Ducky board that I have right here. They are well known for their backlight boards, so they have really nice backlighting. Even though I don't really use backlighting, they're really well known for that. Now, DAS keyboard it's actually not a German company. It's a United States company. They offer. They're also pretty well known, and they sell boards obviously with Cherry MXs as well. Now you also have WASD. You have the Code keyboard, you have KOL, keyed up labs. You have a lot of options with Cherry MXs. Now, like I said, in terms of Alps, you can only get Alps clones, and your best bet is to get them from Matias. Now, with buckling springs, like I said, you're pretty much limited to unicomp. Now with topre, you can get their real force line of keyboards. You can also get something like a Leopold. I believe Leopold sells topres as well as Cherry MXs, and they're a really decent brand. Now in terms of keycaps, you have ABS, you have double shot ABS, PBT, double shot PBT, POM. These are double shot ABS keycaps. Now, ABS and PBT are the most common ones. ABS is on most boards come with ABS keycaps. Now, PBT being a higher quality, they are the keycaps made. The PBT keycaps are more expensive, obviously, and on most boards which come with PBT keycaps, do note that the spacebar is usually ABS, so keep that in mind. And ABS, being inferior to PBT, the keycaps usually start to shine really fast. On this board, my keycaps started to shine maybe like in the first 3 to 4 months, and especially the spacebar as well. So always better to get PBT keycaps. They're usually thicker, definitely higher quality as well. In terms of features of mechanical boards, starting from the connector, right? So usually gaming companies who sell gaming boards tout their gold-plated USB connectors. So that means that this part is gold-plated. This only prevents from oxidation, and it doesn't really matter at all. It offers no performance benefit whatsoever, and it's pretty much in all cases the pins in the inside are not gold plated. So then we have the cables. You have braided cables, you have non-braided cables. Now this is a normal rubber cable, non-braided one. Most brands that I mentioned have non-braided cables, the vast majority of them. So now the thing about rubber cables is that unlike braided cables, they're not susceptible to fraying, right? So fraying is really problematic. If you ever had a braided cable, it really looks bad. Plus, a braided cable can get stuck on things like cloth pads and stuff like that. So, on the other hand, braided cables, they do offer a little bit more protection for the cable, and they definitely look nicer. So it is mostly a preference thing. However, most professional manufacturers and non-gaming brands offer keyboards with rubber cables and not braided cables. Now, if you're thinking about if you should plug your keyboard in a USB 2.0 port, 3.0 port, USB port with a different speed, that doesn't really matter for a keyboard. Now, in terms of cables, we have detachable cables like this one, and you have non-detachable cables, right? So I actually don't mind either one. This is a detachable cable, like I said, going underneath the board. Usually it goes underneath the board, or it is on the outside, offset from the center, from on the right or the left, like this board right here, which has it over here, right? So when you plug it in here, the connector might break very easily, which is why I definitely prefer this solution right here, going underneath the board, much more secure. Now these connectors are usually micro USB, mini USB. This doesn't matter. This matters more for something like smartphones. Now then you have DIP switches. So DIP switches change the functionality of some of the keys on your keyboard, or some other things on a hardware level. So you can, on some boards, you can disable the Windows keys. You can swap control and caps lock, which is really nice. Having control over here where caps lock is, that's a really good feature to have. A lot of people like that. I love that. So yeah, definitely a good thing to have DIP switches. Then you have plate and PCB mounted switches, okay? On boards with PCB mounted switches, the switches are mounted directly onto the printed circuit board, and those boards are usually not as sturdy as the plate mounted ones. They're more flexible and they give you a more floaty typing experience. Now the plate mounted ones, there's a metal plate sandwiched in between. Those boards are heavier and they offer a more firm typing experience, like this one. This one has a metal plate, so it's very sturdy. Some people prefer one, some the other. A good example of a really expensive keyboard with PCB mounted switches might be something like HHKB, and plate mounted ones are a lot more common. Now some keyboards have plastic body, like this one. Some have aluminum ones. This doesn't really matter, this is mostly preference. Plastic is more scratch resistant though, so keep that in mind. Now in terms of layout, unlike the standard QWERTY, you have Dvorak, you have Colmac, you have Workman, you have many different layouts. Dvorak is the second most popular behind QWERTY, so you can check that out as well if you like. Some boards do come with Dvorak layouts, but those are really rare. And lastly, in terms of PS2 and USB, now when you're connecting your board to your system, usually the vast majority of mechanical boards come with a USB connector, right? You can also plug it in your PS2 port if your board supports it, by this USB to PS2 adapter. Now a lot of manufacturers do give these adapters when you buy them. Filco comes with these, so you plug this into your PS2 port, and yeah. Now the main advantage of having a keyboard connected to your PS2 port is N-key rollover. Now N-key rollover is when you can press any number of keys on your keyboard simultaneously and they will all register. Unlike something along the lines of a 6-key rollover board, which supports a max of pressing 6 keys plus modifier keys at the same time, and if you press any more keys they will not register, okay? Now this keyboard does allow me to utilize N-key rollover over USB via hacks. Basically this board is detected as multiple ones to my system, and that is how that is how they implement any key rollover over USB. Now, USB is polling based. So that means basically that your system is asking your keyboard if you pressed any keys, unlike PS2, which is hardware interrupt based. So that means that when you press a key, it sends a signal to your system. Unlike the flip side of it, when you have it connected over USB, then it is obviously the exact opposite. Much better to have it connected over PS2, as there is a speed difference, but in most real world scenarios it will not be noticeable. Also, USB is hot swappable, PS2 is not, so you can also that's also good to keep in mind, and it is definitely more convenient, right? You usually have more than one USB port, so it's definitely more convenient as well. Okay, so these are some of the quick things that popped in my head about mechanical boards. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.